Hey everybody, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today. I'm back with a new layout for the Shimmerz education team. And before I get started, as always, I want to remind you that when you are shopping at the Shimmerz paint store, when you check out, if you leave my name in the comments section of your order, then you can get one freebie mini surprise paint with your order. So don't forget about that, because who doesn't love freebies, right? Okay, so I'm going to use this black and white picture of my daughter. I think it's a beautiful picture, and she's in the pool, but I converted it to black and white because I wanted to use a lot of bright colors, and most of the picture was the side of the pool, which is kind of like a brick color. And I wanted to use some of these papers and washi tape. These are the Jane Davenport papers from Michaels, and I actually bought these months ago when the Jane Davenport stuff first came out, and it was out for a few weeks before I even realized it. I hadn't been to Michael's in a while, and so when I finally got in there, everything was practically picked over. All the paints were gone, but they did have this paper pad, which I thought was gorgeous. The colors and the patterns were just, it blew me away. I was like, I have to have this. I'm going to buy this. And I think I used my coupon, but I had to have it because it was just so pretty. And I also bought a pack of the washi tape. And so I thought I would use some white cardstock here and just sort of be inspired by this paper pad. And I'm going to sort of recreate a layout that I made for the Hip Kit Club not too long ago. I don't know, I've been on a circle kick, and I just felt the need to punch a bunch of circles out of all of this gorgeous paper. I know this is pretty much geared toward art journaling, but I'm just not into that yet. And so I wanted to use this on my layouts, and I wanted lots of pinks, blues, and yellows, and I'm using 3 different size circle punches here. And if you've not got this paper pad, it's really thick and almost shiny paper. It's not like regular pattern paper. It's very thick, but it punches very easily. I haven't tried to put it in my Cameo or anything like that, but it punched really nicely. And so I wanted to create sort of a messy, artsy background for my picture. Since my picture is black and white, I can pretty much use any color scheme that I want. And I was thinking about rainbow at first, but then I just kind of went with pinks, blues, yellows, and some oranges. And all I know at this point is I just want a bunch of circles, and I just sort of went crazy punching them out, and I wanted to create some kind of background using them. And I'm going to situate my picture over to the right since she's looking toward the left, and it kind of is going to look like she's looking across the page at all the circles. And I'm just kind of playing around here. I don't really know what I want this to look like in the end yet, but I'm just sort of separating the colors and kind of making a circle background. So now come the shimmers, and I have not used any gesso or anything like that. I kind of wish I would have, but it doesn't. You can totally use shimmers without gesso. Gesso is not required, but it just toughens up your paper a little bit, and it changes the way the paper soaks in, or the paint soaks into your paper. Because when you don't use gesso like this, you can kind of see how as soon as I push it down, that's the shape it is, because it immediately soaks into the paper. But if you use gesso, it doesn't do that as quick, and you're able to kind of manipulate the paint before it dries. So I'm using some colorings here, and then I just added some pasties on top of it just to give it a little bit more texture and a little bit more of a shade of a different pink, although it's very similar to the color of the spray. The spray that I used was Pink Stilettos, No Yoking is the yellow, and then the blue is a Vibes Jenny B Blue, and the pasties that I used was Raspberry Sherbet. So I'm just going to kind of go back over and sort of start my messy, artsy background here, doing what I usually do, the packaging technique. I thought I would take it a step further and use some of the acrytones, which are the new acrylic paints, in the pink and the red and the white. This did not turn out like I wanted it to. I don't think I had enough paint on my palette knife, honestly. But yeah, that didn't look so great. But I wanted that deeper reddish pink color. It actually winds up turning out okay. So what I do to salvage this is just spray some water on my packaging and then kind of turn it over and kind of smush it down. That didn't really smooth it out or anything, so I just used a napkin and kind of blotted it up. And now I'm just trying to water it down a little bit. And since I did not use gesso, it's not going to smudge around that much. This is called Cold as Ice, and it's a Vibes. And this is Heidi Ho Blue, which is a darker, gorgeous blue color. And I'm just kind of trying to get all the colors that are in those circles here. Now, I'm going to wind up making that darker red spot actually look okay. I like how it turned out. I like that color. I like that deep reddish pink color, and I think it winds up adding something to the layout. Even though it's kind of a messy mistake, it winds up looking okay, I think. So I love how that background is looking, and you can see how pretty easy that was to create that background. You just, you know, spray it directly on, use some packaging, do some splattering, and separate your colors or let them dry in between so they don't mix and make muddy colors, and you very quickly, within a few minutes, could have a messy artsy background if that's what you like. So now I decide to kind of separate the colors of the circles, like all the pinks over to the left, and then the blues, and then the yellows. Even though there's some color mixing, I like how that looks. I'm trying to maybe do a little bit of color blocking, I guess you could say. Even though like there's some pink over there on the yellow side, that's okay. So I'm going to glue all these little circles down so they don't move around. And I actually put some of them on top of the photo because I had some open space, and I like how that looks. This is just some tissue paper from my stash. I don't use any other pattern papers or anything on this layout, and so I wanted a little bit of something around the picture. So the tissue paper is pretty good for that, and it's pretty subtle. And this is another one of those layouts where, you know, I'm not using a specific collection that has, you know, I didn't have any embellishments or anything like that that went with this paper pad. I do play around with the washi tape. I think it's gorgeous. It's so rich in color, but I tried to use a piece here, but it just didn't look, it didn't really add anything to the layout. I think it's because it needs to go on something solid white. I think I need to create a layout where I just use white cardstock and that washi tape, because it would look the best on top of white. That way all those colors stay true. So I'm coming back to splattering because I wasn't sure what step I wanted to take next. I know that I wanted to add some thread. Surprise, surprise, right? So I'm going to use some darker blue, some hot pink, and some bright yellow, and just sort of keep it where the colors are. So I'm going to do blue at the top, yellow on the right, and then some pink on the left. And this just gives it a little bit of subtle texture and a little bit extra color, and just adds to the messy background effect. I love creating backgrounds that really have no meaning. I mean, it's just abstract, it's circles, it's paint, but I just love how it looks, and it is so fun to make. That's some adhesive foam that I stuck to the back of my picture there, and I'm going to go ahead and glue it down because that's where it's going to go, and I know that I don't want to add anything else behind it other than thread. So this is a flare button from a Flare for Buttons. I've had it for a while. I think it was created, gosh, a long time ago when we did a blog hop with the Cut Shop, because I believe Ashley Horton designed a set of flare, and I had that one left over, and so I'm going to use it. Now these are some puffy stickers from the Make Your Mark collection from Bella Boulevard. I had these sitting on my desk, and the colors matched perfectly, and there were circles. And this collection I used not too long ago for another layout. This is the Dear Lizzie Lovely Day, and I've been wanting to use that scripty pattern paper, so I'm going to fussy cut out the word Dreamer and incorporate that into my title. And I like the script of it. I like that it's crooked, and I like that it's black because I've got a black and white photo, and so I'm going to have other little pops of black around the page. Now these I use quite a bit. They're in my little whatever I have left over basket that's on my desk. They're from Simple Stories. I believe the first Carpe Diem several years ago. Well, I don't want to say several. Whenever they first started doing that, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I've just had it for a long time. And it may not be Carpe Diem. I don't remember. But I just had to have them because of all the colors. And so I'm just using little bits and pieces, a couple of butterflies, whatever I have left over on these sheets that match. Some little yellow dots, some little numbers with circles. And I'm just, you know, using it to add a little bit more detail around the page. I'm going to glue that flare button right onto the picture there. And these are from American Crafts. I bought these at Michael's a long time ago. It's a little booklet of black and white letters. And I'm going to use the white to create the word she, or the words, she's a. So my title is going to be She's a Dreamer. And I like how this is going to look. I'm going to wind up tracing around the white letters a little bit so they're more visible. And I always, you know, try to come up with my own titles, but sometimes when I see something on a paper, it just sort of jumps out at me. And I like the word dreamer, and I like the picture. And, you know, if you know my daughter, then I'm always thinking, I wonder what she's thinking, because she's nonverbal, and so she can't tell me what she's thinking. So I'm always wanting to know, you know, what is she thinking about? Those are some sequins from Spiegel Mom's scraps that I just glued down, in some pink, some yellow, and some blue. I'm going to add a little bit of journaling here. And that pen is from Illustrated Faith. It's meant for Bible journaling, but it's really thin, and I like how it writes on cardstock. So I decided that the other edges of the paper needed a little something different. So I just kind of cut out some little bits of the paper on the side and the bottom, and then took my little edge distresser and roughed it up. And then I'm just going to kind of back it with some papers from that paper stack. Blue at the bottom and pink over on the left, just to give it a little something so it's not stark white. Sometimes I like to leave it white. And in this case, I just wanted to do something that, you know, wasn't too busy, that kind of added a little something extra to those sides there. And I like how that looks. And I'm loving how this is turning out, even though it's totally random, and I don't even really use a lot of embellishments. I didn't use any cut files or anything like that. I just knew that I wanted to use that Jane Davenport stack of papers, and I do use a little bit of the washi tape down here under the journaling. And I almost didn't do any machine stitching, but I do add just a little bit here along the bottom. I stitched through this washi tape, and then I'm going to stitch some zigzags through the pink and the blue on the side and the bottom. And I do that off camera, and there's the final layout. I love how this turned out. It turned out very messy and artsy, but I love the bright colors. I think they're so pretty. And I love that the paper stack inspired me to go with this color scheme, you know. And that's the great thing about Shimmerz, is there's a color for everything. And it was so much fun. I love the blue and the pops of that bright pink and the orange. So pretty. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the Shimmerz products or anything that I did. And I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great week.